Okay. Hi everyone, this is XcAST, and now we are here in Kersnikova, in wonderful place, around wonderful people here. And today I'm welcome and very happy to have Method Blades, multidisciplinary hybrid practitioner in art, design, photography, and education. And he's working in experimental and engaging process-based projects. So very happy to see you here.
Thank you.
Yes. Now the next one is Chertemin Tauzes, and he's a bioscientist. He's working with the wood in NRU Center of XcAST.
Hi, thank you for having me here.
Yeah. The next one, actually, he's not a guest. He is co-moderator, Rok Urbanchik. Very happy that you are working with me. Yeah, and now the next one is Simon Gmeiner. He is a project developer and producer at Kersnikova Institution. Very thank you that you are hosting us here.
Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, he's working in development, and he's managing a lot of various European culture and research and innovational programs for European Commission. And the last but not least, of course, Andrei Pezov. He's art historian, he's a sociologist and art critic. Thank you. Thank you to have you. Yeah. So today, I think it would be very interesting to talk about connection and communication in different practices in arts and society, and of course in science. And I would start with method because as I know you are working in this field, and maybe you can tell us how you started and how you started even work with art, and then how you found yourself in this kind of field.
So as a practitioner in art, I work not necessarily as a practitioner in art and technology or art and science per se. I have some reservations towards it, but it's an interesting field. It's yet to be developed, where it would be serving us as a society in a way that we could actually gain from it. For now, I'm a bit critical about it. But in terms of art, art's always been flirting with other sectors, always been engaging criticality or curiosity in other fields. And at the moment, particularly in Slovenia, art science as well as art technology are being fully explored, like big time, like more than anywhere else that I know of.
And exploited. The terminology and this, mixture itself, art, science, technology in collaboration with the
science
industry.
speak in art at the moment is so abused that I'm sometimes questioning how far we're gonna go. I mean, obviously we're already researching. Artist is researching, is exploring, where artists have never really researched. Art's been experimenting in the studio, playing per se. But now we're basically, but artist has always been borrowing language from other sectors to infiltrate those sectors and make it applicable in their practices. And that's what's very interesting, actually. We are sort of chameleons, and that's good. But at the beginning of art being, of arts playing with certain sectors, like at the moment science or technology, although art has been exploring that for 40 years, the terminologies and practices and outputs, projects are questionable.
Questionable in what way? I mean, I was kind of perturbed by your use of misused. Why would scientific terminology and scientific, would you also say scientific way of thinking, be abused by the arts?
It's not necessarily abused. It's abuse is a strong
That
word.
was a strong word. Yeah.
It's a strong word, but for the lack of better word, I think abuse in a sense. Okay, artists will use a certain language to heighten their practices to a level where it's becoming something that it may not be. For it to become more relevant, more commercially viable, more outlandish, more aggressive, more new, whatever new is, etc. So in a sense, artists will exploit those terminologies because it's something new for them, and it's very cool to use them.
I mean, yeah. I mean, on a certain level, I would definitely agree with your hypothesis, because if you ask a let's call them hardcore scientists, right, to read one of the texts, let's say, that you were referring to, most probably they would go like, huh?
Exactly.
What? No, that's wrong. Usually that would be the first notion you would get, the first reaction that you would get in your head, before being explained that hyperbole and exaggerations and whatnot are the relevant tools of art.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, art has always pushed the boundary, and art should push the boundary. If art doesn't push the boundary, it doesn't matter for it. It doesn't need to exist in a sense. But this hyperbole is important, and to a certain degree, I find it funny. But when it becomes a little bit too obvious, I'm like, okay, let's slow down, let's question it, let's see if it still serves the purpose. Because oftentimes art's like, oh wow, if I join this chemical with water, it's gonna create something ridiculous. I'm gonna call this art, and people are gonna go to galleries and they're gonna be like,
it's just bullshit.
It's illustration. And my problem in these particular sectors, and here I'm gonna go heresy against artists, it becomes illustration. And if art, and I'm gonna borrow this good statement from a very dear friend of mine, but we've abused this statement beyond belief. If art doesn't communicate, it's decoration. If it's decoration, it doesn't matter. For me, and for most people, to be honest. And so, I think I've dug myself into a proper hole.
No, but it's a good thinking. And I would also continue with maybe Andrei, because one time you said to us at the school one sentence that I think it's quite important and quite connected with this, that when art is without high knowledge, it's just how do you say, spavet, just confession. It's just, so when art is without this high knowledge, it's just a regular confession.
Are you sure that I said this? I thought that I said that art is always confession, and it can be nothing but a confession. More this.
Selective hearing.
Yes.
Or interpretation, because
maybe
art does invoke interpretation.
No, but from the position of the artist and from the position of the spectator, this is my opinion. It's I can prove it, but it would be maybe too long. But it's nothing but a confession, and then because this confession is included in the specific field of power, then it means that it seems that it has some other sense than outside confession. That it's not only confession, but it's a trick. It is only confession.
It hides behind.
And this is but this is whether the art is just decorative or high scientific art or high sociological art. it is always a confession, just that it's a little bit differently packed in different way. But what is even wrong, most horrible, because I think there is not so big problem to accept that art is a confession, because artist is confessing himself, he's searching a truth, first his own truth, then the truth of the society. He wants to say to society, explain the truth. But the scientist, even the hardcore scientist, they are making only confession also. This is the problem. Just again, it's packed in something completely different, because it's again in some specific regime of power, that it seems that it's something more than confession. And yes, this confession save lives. I don't say that it doesn't, but why I say this? Because when you were speaking about this art abusing science, you always, I have also this feeling that artists try to get as much technical or technological in science, to be as much technical and technological, and then at the same time aesthetical, and they find some good mixture, and then they expose it, and yeah, it's vendable. It's sellable.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you say, yes, but artist, again, he's using the science just to make something beautiful, and the scientist is using this science in a better condition to save life, to make life better, that we live longer and happier. But then you can say also, yes, but whether the scientists today, high-core scientists, mathematicians, physicians, and electric, informatics science, whether they are not just, in a way, manipulated by this ideology of growth. You know, I know the mathematicians that are searching some really, really high level topology problem. For what? To develop robotic science. And what does it serve for? To make more production. So, more consumerism and more problem for the planet. So at the one point you have high-class mathematician, professor in a university, expert in topology. He dedicates all his life to improve robot, which can seems in 100 years as a major problem for...
Or worse still, warfare.
Yes. Yes. So
Yeah.
this is the reason that I don't. I believe that scientists before maybe that scientists are a little bit in advantage to the artists, but I think that they are in the same problem. More of them, like 90%, 99% of them, are obsessed with the idea of growth, the personal growth, and the growth of society. They are making it growing by improving first themselves, then the society, by inventing some products, ideas, formulas, whatever. But when you look where does it goes, I think it goes nowhere. It goes to the end of our civilization as we know it. So, planet doesn't need scientists nor artists.
Nor people, for
yeah,
that
nor
matter.
people,
Like
especially not people. And something else could come after us and be even better, you know.
I mean, the statement that science made, if you remove the insects from the earth, the nature will collapse within a year. You remove the
Nature as we know it today.
as we know it. You remove humanity or human being in 50 years as if nothing happened. Although, you know,
That's a very brave statement.
It is. I mean, I've questioned it myself, but you know, when you think of it, you have, let's say, a tarmac road. In 50 years, that road, if you don't maintain it, it does not exist anymore. It's gravel at best. You know, you have a concrete house. Okay, maybe not 50 years, but in 100 years, it's overgrown. You can't even see that there was a house before. you know. And what do? We go and pillage and plunder wherever we can.
Perhaps at this moment we can lean into the values of today's arts and technology and science. So maybe just Simon, what do you think? You're also producer. You said like here at Kersnikova. So what is you would say like? I know it's hard to say in general, but how do you see the artists today? What are their values? Do they fight for something just for themselves, or how this works? How do you see them?
It's very difficult to answer that question directly or even shortly. I would maybe connect to some things that were said before. I would say that in my position, I've had the privilege of working with a couple of artists that are on a, if I may use this term, on a higher level that goes beyond, let's maybe illustration of science and technology, or even speculative art that might be just speculating on the solutions that might come from the technological and scientific advances that we have today, but have done real work with the science, with the materials, with the equipment that was available, and have gone beyond the technological fascination themselves, the scientific fascination, and have come to something that can be called a really a masterpiece in the field of art, science, and technology. And within these projects, I would say that there is a very deep understanding of the misdirection of where the humanity is going today. Regarding, the ethical, the moral standards that have been put in place and that we are still adhering to as a society, and the works that I've been involved with here are also the ones that have been questioning the whole hierarchy of today's society, individuals as they are placed within, and the species that are being placed within. So I would say that from my personal experience, artists are putting a lot of thought into why they are doing what they are doing, and this goes beyond their I would say professional, personal fulfillment of being recognized, acknowledged, and so forth. They go beyond that. So I would say that yeah, we said that perhaps we wouldn't name names, but I would name names here because I think they're important, and maybe to just kind of balance the male environment within which we are in. Maya Smekar, for sure, with her projects of canine topology that was also awarded, the highest awards at Ars Electronica, and also in Slovenia, the award of Prešeren Council. I forgot how it's translated. She was doing really in-depth scientific work that spanned laboratories, countries, and also involved scientists on the highest level, where she could come to a result. On another hand, we have perhaps Špela Petrić, another very successful, acknowledged Slovenian artist who was a scientist by herself. She didn't start it from the artistic circle. So she was a scientist. She graduated, had a master's, had a doctorate in biology, microbiology, and so forth. And then she transferred to the artistic, to the humanistic side. And I would have to say that these two examples are the ones that I would refer or be most proud of when we're talking about this art, science, technology mix. um, 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 because they went beyond what is pure science, what is pure technological advancements, and within the processes, the protocols, and the procedures, they're wanted to touch upon the meaning for an individual and for the society within which the individual lives.
Yeah, it was very nice. Thank you. I think also they have a lot of responsibility on themselves, right? To have a lot of knowledge and also background, and maybe it would be also interesting to think about the responsibility in science and art, because I feel that if you are an artist, you have not less, and I think even more, and also scientists, of course, responsibility to be among the people around, because you're showing somewhere to them. And now I'm reading the book. It's called Dark Ecology, and it's talking about this keeper object that lead us to this collapse and to this global warming. For example, in the 20th century, we had a lot of these industrials innovations with the factories, and now because of that we have a lot of pollutions. And also, if artist doesn't aware about his responsibility and he's doing something and he doesn't think that how it would influence to the other people, it would bring a lot of huge problems. And also if scientists also doing this robots he doesn't aware. So what do you think about responsibility in these things?
It's a topic very rarely discussed. It's a topic that people, or particularly artists, don't want to necessarily discuss. It's the topic that is most important. That is the topic that goes hand in hand with education or transfer of knowledge, and the responsibility of anybody who's doing new work or research or experiments, plays, researches, interrogates certain aspects. This is essentially what we need to be doing. If we're not, again, we go back to decoration. The moment it becomes decoration, you can put value on it, you can commodify it, you can sell it, and off it goes to the market, and it gives nobody any good to start with, I think. But I may be wrong, because there are too many sort of like permutations of an artist who wants to succeed, who's got a particular ego, who wants it, and that goes for scientists as well, who wants their work to be, above others, to be shown more, to be presented in media more often and louder, and and so on. But there are artists where they would work in the background in their studios, or not in the studios, in their studies, for decades, and later on, 30, 40 years later, they would be discovered, only to find out that those artists don't necessarily want to be discovered. That they've been doing their own work, their own practice, and they've engaged in it for their own purpose. Perhaps they were teaching, perhaps they were transferring knowledge on their own terms, and that's absolutely fine. But this commodification, I'm louder than that person. Oh, I got this award. Oh, I've got this funding. Oh, I've got so and so. I mean, measuring these things in art or science is a huge problem. And that only elevates these egos and inflates them to beyond recognition, into whatever shape.
May take this conversation a step back, basically. I would argue that I really cannot speak about the artists, but I would just assume that the impetus for our work is mostly similar. I would argue that, especially at the beginning of the career, a vast majority of scientists, I would go against your argument. They don't think about, you know, I'm going to earn money, I'm going to be famous, and what. It's just the internal, inherent urge to learn and discover. And I would guess that that's the same with artists.
Yeah.
However, then life happens, and I'm sure that also in arts you need large budgets to do stuff, but in science particularly, you need huge amounts of money to move things further significantly. You can do incremental, slow, really small increments in discoveries, even in, you know, I call it guerrilla style research, but like really major breakthroughs, you need lots and lots and lots of funding, not just direct funding for you, but also, you know, the whole ecosystem, as you call it, because no one discovers anything by her or himself. There's always teams, there's always previous knowledge, you need infrastructure, you need research equipment that costs millions. So then life happens. And you are forced to do stuff like fundraising and publications, so you are heard and you are cited in our circles. It's more about, you know, your work getting recognition. It's cited by other scientists. Mostly that's one of the measures, but one of the main measures. And that gets you money. So if you have this urge to discover and to work, you have to do it. It's the name of the game. You have to have it. And there are several of these dichotomies. Let's say if I refer to your statement that science brings only commercializable progress, and that it inherently leads to more overproduction and consumerism, I would strongly argue that that is not the case, because I would say that even for the problems you were mentioning that we are causing by our development, we wouldn't have known about them if we didn't have science. We wouldn't have known about global warming if we didn't have science behind it. There's thousands of scientists working on it, sensors, satellites, whatnot, and we would be blissfully unaware of it and just exterminate ourselves if we didn't research that. And also degrowth was let's say invented by scientists. There are huge areas of science that deal with, I know it's profane and banal, recycling or reuse or replacing the more harmful materials or products with less harmful.
Yeah, marketing terms, yeah.
Not marketing, the real.
No. I mean, recycling, reuse,
right.
Upcycle, etc.
This is more sustainable development.
This is what?
Sustainable development.
Yes, that's how it's called. But there's a lot, really basic research going into it also.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
go.
Go.
I would just wanted to reply to object to your objection because I didn't want to speak in this level, which is, let's say, level of our internal history, but I try to move a little bit in more macro historical scale, and then what I believe more and more, and it is the most difficult idea to adopt, is that the man, the human being, naturally doesn't have this, what you said, eager to discover. I will just try to explain it. I think this fascination about eager to discover is an invention, let's say, end of 19th, beginning of all 19th century, where something quite if you look in history, then the 19th century discovers prehistoric time, and then he drops anchor in this prehistoric time. He said, okay, this is our beginning. Look, there we were. We invented the fire, then the circle, like the wheel, and then more and more and more, and then even Kubrick made a movie like about this ideology. It's false. It's false. Today, historian scientists know it's false. Why it's false? Because it's constructed without any proof. Together with this, we have this false idea again, without any. When I say any, it's zero proof that men were explicitly hunters and women not, because they were strong and women weak. It's false. It's again made because it was developed in 19th century, which is the most patriarchal century in history of human being, without any concurrence. And then this ideology of eager to discover like explodes, and it goes to all 20th century. But in fact, if you look like vast periods of Neanderthal and first thousands of years of Homo sapiens, nothing happens. Nothing happens for ages. You have Neanderthal who lives like 100,000 years in the same condition, and then there is some cold, like ice age comes, and then he makes some improvement because he has to adapt. But he's not in this trip that we live. I have to improve myself every day, because if I wake up tomorrow less good than I wake up yesterday, I'm a bad person. This is Christian. This is Christianity. This is Christianity. This obsession by the personal growth. It doesn't. The Homo sapien doesn't have it. A Neanderthal man, woman doesn't have it. They just live as a cat live. You know, he wants to eat, and if he has something to eat, he rests. That's it. And
well, that's the human. That's the animal kingdom.
Yes,
I mean, you look at the animal kingdom. It does. It rests until it's hungry.
So this obsession by eager to discover, I mean, it's not totally. You cannot say that this is natural thing. It's sociological thing. It's a sociological thing.
Constructed, yeah.
Yes, but scientists are learned to think it as a natural thing. They are learned where? In the school. So when you were speaking about a young scientist at the beginning of the career, they are already at the end of the growth. They made elementary school, high school, university, and PhD. It's like 16 years of drill.
Indoctrination.
That didn't exist before 17th century. It didn't exist. Never. In no civilization. Not in Greek civilization, not in Roman civilization, not in Egypt civilization. Only we, after 17th century, invented this pedagogical drill of mass. Maybe sometimes there were some philosophers and elites
and standardized.
Standardized norm. We make it a norm. If you are not inside, you are outhouse. You don't have anything to do in the society. This is only from the beginning of it started 17th century of our era. Before, never happened. Never in any civilization. If you go to the Neanderthal time. So this is a theoretical concept to deal with, and scientists, natural scientists, have to know this. They have to know this and ask themselves and critically examine themselves. What is this eager to discover exactly? You know, what is this? Is this the same thing as the eager to peace and to eat? You know, or it's something completely different?
I mean, interesting. Going back to what you said in the university, you know, students don't necessarily know where they are going towards, and they're very ideological, eager, perhaps to learn because they were
ideological or idealistic.
Idealistic. You know that this is going to be it's going to be great, and then life happens, etc., etc. It really depends where. in the world. Because I've met student artists or artist students in Beijing at the Central Academy. They went to the Central Academy with the same idea than a student goes to economics faculty. To earn as much money as fast as possible, by whatever means. Whether they're doing painting, sculpture, it doesn't matter to them, really. They just want to earn that Ferrari in the first 10 years of practice. And I have met the people who came to the opening with their bloody Ferraris, just because they could. And not because they were Chinese and Chinese started buying their art. No, because Westerns, okay, let's say a few art managers and art collectors have decided, ooh, China is now the new world to discover. And we're going to go and buy their art. And Chinese were there, okay, it's on sale, go buy it. They bought it like for millions, if not billions. And yes, of course, they're driving around in their Ferraris now. It is sad to see where, they come in their latest car, phone, whatever technology, clothes, and they can't discuss a single critical thought from beginning to end. And you're like, okay, it would be nice to drive that Ferrari, but I really don't need it because it's a little bit outlandish and it's a bit stupid, etc. And it's red to start with. That sort of stupidity. But then, if you go, for instance, what's happening now in Britain, I spent 12 years in Britain. What's happening now in Britain? Students don't go to art academies anymore or art schools anymore. Why? Because first they need to pay about £30,000 just for the fees, and then they need to live as well. So they need another £30,000 to live on the bare minimum. So 3 years out of college, they're £60,000, or let's say €70,000 in debt. Of course, they're not going to go study art. They're not going to earn the money to pay the debt back. So they're closing down humanities faculties, art schools, etc., etc. They're shrinking them, and I've even heard, because I'm into art education, I've even heard that Central St. Martin's, University of the Arts London, decided, at degree shows we're gonna take 25% commission on artists' work that's being sold in degree shows, and you're like, wait, 1 + 1 is like, are you stupid? Do you really want to tell everybody who's even remotely thinking studying art not to come to art schools anymore? Because this is what they're doing. And they're doing it here as well. We're going to put the fees so high up. We're going to award them to the ground. But yes, of course, there are no jobs in arts. They never were. Even though, in the old days at least, you could still find a mecena. Now you can't even find a flipping mecena anymore. And then we go, I need to earn, I need to promote myself on social media, I need to go around, I need to meet people, I need to exert my interest, and I need to suppress a little bit my ego, but needs to be present still, so that gallerist or curator or whoever I'm trying to impress will buy my story. And you're like, excuse the language, we're fucked.
Maybe even more so because, well, there still are some art schools, there still are, you can still enroll, but who enrolls then, in today's society? Who enrolls in the prestigious, universities, faculties, art schools? Rich people, because they know, their children, their daughters, their sons, because they know they will be set for life. They can earn money by, with having money. So what we have is people that feel a bit, that maybe the society does not accept them because they became rich, or that the only thing that they have is, you know, capital, and they go and they kind of manufacture the other kind of capital, you know, the understanding of the arts capital, you know, how and what we have today is people that are not being you know, grown into it, not being there from the beginning, from, you know, from their parents. A lot of, you know, artists that were accomplished, that through the history, that have been great artists, also came from an environment that enabled them from the young age onwards. And here we have instant artists, instant art curators, historians, just because they could pay to go and study somewhere. You know, it might be Britain, might be a lot of people go to the Netherlands, a lot of people go to Germany.
It will soon be here. It will soon be
and
in
Slovenia
the
is
global
not
north.
falling so far behind in this respect.
Absolutely.
No.
But you know what we're discussing now, and your positions. My personal view is that these are all, we're talking about perversions of arts and sciences. What you were referring to is the technological development. That's not science. And that's not what I posited first, curiosity. It's not even that hungry Neanderthal that didn't catch the deer in the first valley where they were living. If he or she was still hungry, they had to explore. And that's the primordial curiosity. Is this plant edible? Are there going to be new animals behind that hill? This is all, basically speaking, science.
Yeah, but even a wolf is exploring like this between different valleys, but we don't call him a scientist. You know, there is really different degrees of this curiosity. Of course, if you have to survive, you become curious because you have to deal with the problem. I mean, but then you can.
We come back to the basics. Why we do things.
No,
whichever thing, because we have to survive.
Yeah, but
you have to carry on your DNA
We're
to the next generation. That's the basic tenet.
Yeah, okay, maybe this I could. This is for sure something natural. This need to reproduce itself.
I mean, we're opportunistic animals who need to survive.
But no, but even this reproduction, yeah. Of course, it exists in a way that this is like evolutionary thing. Probably we have this need of reproducing ourselves, but I'm just saying that I wanted to put the accent on the fact that our society is really a curious thing. I consider it as a little or big anomaly in the animal world. Just this. I don't say that this is something completely artificial. This curiosity and eager to discover from the others, but to the degree where it comes, that doesn't take any price or it goes without any compromise. This is something that you cannot say it's. It could also not happen, you know.
I would say it could not happen. No, because look, it's if we go to the very beginning, and we discuss why we are doing stuff. Okay, first is, you know, we have two urges that are, you know, the basic two from the history onward. First one is reproduction, and the second one is to be the first one in the tribe, in the pack, in the herd, because the first one gets gets a status and is also, you know, the one that will be first to reproduce as well. No, so we come back to the first reproduction, but I would say that
not necessarily. There's a ton of research now.
This statement of yours is extremely religious.
I know.
It's extremely religious. Yes, there were 300,000 or 600,000 years of Neanderthal, then 200 or years of Homo sapiens. Only that we come where we are, that we drive in the electric cars for 30 years more, and then everything is fucked up. You know, this is complete like the religious. This is almost okay, I'll be a little bit provocative, but religious determinism or even fanatism, that you think that it should happen. I think it's more interesting and more difficult to think that why and how it happens. One historian, for example, that analyzed the economy of 18th century, he made an analysis of the original text. He said everything what was written in history, science, it's not good in this problem, like banking system. He said, now that I make this analysis, I say, the more I'm into it, the more I'm fascinated by the fact that the bank occurred in the 17th, 18th century, in the modern sense of the word, as an institution that is like systematically deal with lending the money and taking profit. This is interesting thing.
Go back 4 centuries. Go back 4 centuries.
No.
Yes.
No.
For banks.
No.
14th century, yeah.
Okay, but it's not the same thing as a modern banking. It's not
exactly the same thing.
When one rich guy borrows some money to 7 of his rich friends, this you have even in Rome, you know.
15th century Rothschilds.
Yeah, but I'm speaking a bank as an institution. Okay.
Yeah. No, I would. I appreciate what you're saying, and I have to say that okay, sometimes I might come off that I'm speaking from the religious base. I was an altar boy for 8 years, and I've been raised as a Christian. I am an atheist now.
All of us.
No. So, but what I was trying to say, you know, so we have these two urges. No, we have another one, and you know, everything that we done in let's say as Neanderthals, as Homo sapiens and so forth, we've done with these two that I mentioned before, but these two happen either because we are forced to move somewhere, to look for food, to escape the rash conditions that we're living in, or because sometimes it happens to us. When you were talking about, okay, I'm gonna eat that plant, you know, I'm always wondering who the fuck said I'm going to try a smaller portion of that plant, you know, when the first person kind of died when he tried it. So we were, you know, when we're talking about this curiosity, the urge to discover, I would say why I said it was inevitable not to happen, because from my personal opinion, I think that there was a lot less this innate or even learned urge to discover in the past that it is now. But this is from my beginning because the questions weren't there. When the guy sat into the bathtub and it went up, did he have this question in mind, or did he say, why did this happen now? I'm going to discover this, you know. Did he know, okay, I'm going to do a formula out of it? You know, when Leonardo da Vinci, who I usually also bring up when we're talking about art and science, you know, when are we acknowledging him as an artist, and when is he a scientist? You know, he was a person that I thought was incredibly curious. He was driven by curiosity, you know. And
yeah, but you can be as curious as you want. If you don't have access, you may as well not be curious. At the end of the day, you know, if you don't have access, he had access to the mortuary to go and dissect the people, even though it was illegal to dissect people in Renaissance, in the 15th century. It was absolutely legal, and he could be killed, he could be hanged for it. But because he had the Mecena, who's like, do you know what? I think you've got something to discover. Go and find out.
Was that Leonardo's thing, or did the Messina
We don't know.
always was also curious? Why
Maybe.
did he allow it?
Maybe.
No?
Maybe. But this
No,
is the thing.
This is what you are saying. Simply, it's historically not true. I have to like make objection. Again, like many things in our perception of the world and nature, the myth of Leonardo da Vinci as a high-ranked scientist that is in fact some kind of embryo of modern scientists is a complete invention of the end of 19th century and beginning of 20th century. If you look, for example, books that speak about artists from 17th century and 18th, you come from time to time to Leonardo da Vinci in these phrases. Michelangelo and Leonardo da Vinci were good painters, but they are not in the same league as Raphael. Okay, already 17th, 18th century somehow ranked them as a second-grade artist. Raphael is the top and the only one who went beyond. For us, Raphael is behind Michelangelo and Da Vinci for different reasons. I started in doing some archive research to the some kind of note from the transporter, probably who put a lot of Renaissance works from Italy to France in the time of France. He transported the wagon of this. He speaks like you would transport today the bananas. You know, like it was even lost. One interesting thing is but it's difficult to break this obsession and love of contemporary people with Leonardo da Vinci. But really, like intriguing thing is that when Mona Lisa was stolen in 1913 or 14, the Louvre took 3 days. Administration of Louvre took 3 days to realize that she is missing, Mona Lisa. She was hanging on the wall. She was not in depot. Someone came, put it down from the wall. They make some trigger to think that she went to restoration. 3 days, and how they find out that she is missing? Because one fanatic amateur drawer, came every day in front of Mona Lisa and copy. And when after 3 days she was not back on the wall, he went to ask the guys in the museum, what is with this painting? And then they start to check. Otherwise, maybe it took 1 month. But this Leonardo da Vinci, like embryo of scientist plus painting, so the man to make everything in the same time, it's post-mortem construction. Why? Because we are all raised. No. Because because we are all raised as the Christians, because we are going to the school that were practically put by the Christian state and the institution of the church to work out. We are trained, and this is the biggest problem, to think only in the term of Genesis. So we have to think there is a beginning and there is the end. This is our specificity of thinking that was implemented to our mentality by the state and the church, which is practically the same thing. If you look historically, the state is continuation of the church with another meanings and other resources, but it's the same thing. So we are, since now 5 centuries, drilled every day for 8 hours to think there is a beginning, embryo, and there is the end. This is completely Christian thing. If we would not pass this historical period, we would think in some completely other direction. And in this new concept, the eager to discover, would be something completely different. It would exist, but it would not be same thing, which is now something that has some ground prepared, ground that tell you, yeah, it's good. You see some embryo, and you have to develop it, and then you will be an important man, and then when you die, everybody will think of you 300 years after because you will leave some legacy. Again, completely Christian thing, which like maybe like reflected our need to reproduce ourselves in the intellectual legacy. You don't make children, but you make artworks or scientific formulas. These are your children, because you didn't have time with all this responsible work to deal with the babies. So this is also this myth, the artists that don't have children, because they don't have time. They have to make more important children. This is also a completely Christian thing. So it's really difficult to think about something today that is not Christian, and that is why the work of Maja Smrekar shocked everyone, because she literally goes to the level of the dog. She leave her dog take yes, and this is shocking, because us Christians say this is not possible. The human being is not an animal. We cannot go there. But Homo sapiens were regularly have interaction with
this. If we're at Christian values, this is the first Christian value. We're gonna rank animal kingdom and the nature.
Yes.
Humans are up here, and then we've got various animals, and then there are plants, and then there are those insects, whatever. Who cares?
Okay, you are hurting my biologist's feelings right now. That is absolutely not true. So I have to strongly object to that.
No, but I mean, when we're talking about curiosity, going back to Christian values, humans have curiosity. Not true. I mean, there are ample examples in animal kingdom that animals have equal curious drive. For instance, I mean, starting with dolphins and whales and cats, and I mean, you name
worms.
It. Worms. They would go and check. Like
anything with neurons.
Exactly.
Basically.
And we speaking
a slightly larger mass of neurons per weight.
And we speaking from human-centric position, we're like, we're so above that. No, we're not.
And in that I do agree. I mean, that is the, let's say, predominant Western way of thinking, but it's just wrong.
But I know it's wrong. But I just said that it's predominant.
It is predominant, but I'm not. Now I may say a bit. I may start a bit of a heresy here. I think we need to be aware that most of the traits in nature are distributed along the Gauss curve. So when we're speaking about, let's say, curiosity or whichever other trait, you have to realize that there's 33% of people who have a bit less of it, there's 30% who are like in the middle, and then you have these 1 sigma, 2 sigma, 3, and so on. You are familiar with the Gauss curve, right? Yeah. So it is super generalizing to give statements like this we are giving right now. But apropos curiosity, I know it's been about almost 30 years now that I went to school, but in neurobiology classes we learned about what you said right now. But just in practical terms, do you have children? Have you ever given them a Lego set when they were like 2 years old?
No.
Or any other, or just a couple of cubes of whatever wood.
But some people,
or just observe them how they play. They are inherently curious. What does a child do when that person is introduced with a new either object or a concept. They explore it. They put it in the mouth. They try to break it. They try to pull it apart. They turn it all around. It's inherent curiosity. And then, of course, under the Gauss curve, some people are more, they have a bigger potential to develop it into arts or sciences or technology or something. But of course, our systems, all of our systems from the beginning are made for the medium 33% of population. Schools, the church, the whatever. Because you cannot have a system made for 1.6%
where everybody excels.
Or everybody except, or, you know, the other, because it's just not doable.
Can you imagine that carnage?
Sorry?
Can you imagine the carnage where everybody excels?
Yeah,
or
sure.
nobody excels. It's just like, we're just gonna drink beer.
But you cannot set the system for 1.6% of people. It just doesn't work. So all of our systems are made for the median level of, now not just one trait, but a million of traits that we have. And herein then lies all this dichotomy with when we're talking about inventions or great artistic creations and responsibility. I mean, I know in science that's constant talk, responsible science, blah, 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 right? Nuclear energy the nuclear fission is used for creating energy or making nuclear bombs. And it's inevitable. Every kind of progress can be used or misused. It's not even a question. So it's just a question of how we set this 33% system that it's going to work. And currently, I agree, in many of facets of our society, we're going the wrong way. And now define wrong, I mean, it's...
But on this this division by 33% of three groups of differently capable people, you have then a statistical
animals, plants, whatever.
But you have then a statistical problem which can be only explained by a racist answer, and I'm not comfortable with this. Like, why then in the French high school, high level, top level schools, like they have this not universities but école supérieure, so elite school for high education. Why then there? This is a Bourdieu that made already in 70s analyze, only 1% or 1.6% of farmers' son goes to this elite school. And then not even more difficult question to answer to make a compromise with this selection of the society is why then you have so many. Now a little less, but before, through all 19th century, you don't have any woman in art, in science, nothing, only men. For example, if we speak about science, medical science, I made quite long research since last few years. It's there that I became really skeptical against the science in this sense, because I said to myself, if the science of 19th century, where there was one Koch or Pasteur, could be so naive in this medical field, and I will explain why they were completely naive, then who guarantee me that today it's not similar? I cannot perceive it, but why they were naive? For example, why the medicine was completely naive in 19th century? It was naive because when they wanted to explain the sickness, the illness of the woman, they completely accepted to be dominated by the Christian religion and patriarchal conditions in society. So they could not accept for until the 30s of 20th century that women is practically equal being in a medical sense. You have, through all the 19th century, the majority of doctors consider the woman in the terms of virgin, widow, divorced, married. These are pertinent medical conditions to analyze a medical state of the woman. I'm speaking about high top science in France and the biggest names in medicine, including the names like Pasteur, you know, but maybe not him, but at the same level, okay? So how then, so what is, you see that there is a big the hole between 30, 30, 30, 33, 33, 33, and what power then brings up? Because you have centuries without women, then you have even today the century without worker children, farmer children, less good Cartier children, and so on. And so on, you see? So it's really difficult to combine this, the natural paradigms with the reality in society. I don't give how you can put two together without conflict. I don't know.
We should be super careful while doing that, otherwise we get into really unpleasant ideologies. But with careful, I would again carefully say potential. The potential for that is distributed along the Gauss curve. How the potential is realized is a different story. But the potential, I'm not talking about the final outcome. It's just the possibility. Some people can be super good runners. They have the genetics for being super fast people. But if they never enter a good club, or they have environment that is not stimulative to put them into sports, they will just sit behind the computer and eat hamburgers, they will never realize the potential, but the potential is there.
But that goes for arts, that goes for science,
Yes.
it goes for anything. I mean, what?
So we have to be super careful when, because
Sure.
otherwise we get into these,
Sure.
what are they called? What genetics? What did the Nazis do?
Eugenics.
Eugenics and
I
all
mean-
these things. When we are not careful about applying or merging natural base and then the sociological.
I mean,
layers that
an
come on
interesting
top of that.
example is sports. You know, sports is divided on a clear division: men, women. Now they're transgender. Anyway, I'm not gonna go into that. But going into endurance sport, like really high endurance marathons, bike rides, and so on. Who won the transcontinental bike race 2019 from Istanbul to somewhere in Belgium over the Alps, 3,000 kilometers? It was a woman by 11 hours. There was a woman who won, because they don't distinguish between a male race and a female race, they just bunch them all together and it's like, off you go. There is one race in Scotland, an ultra-marathon race. There was a woman who ran for 198 hours straight and won by I don't know how many hours before, ahead of the first men. And you're like, okay, so we may be a bit wrong here, you know.
Yes, but that person was allowed to realize that potential.
Yes.
I will make a bold statement. I would dare say she did not come from, let's say, a Muslim-dominated society.
No, she wouldn't be able to afford it to start with.
Exactly.
Let alone have the cultural background that it would allow her to excel.
But then again, yes, then you have to ask ourselves, I would like to imagine a Neanderthal guy who is just happy to catch a deer, and he's okay, now I'm okay, and my family or even tribe is okay for the next 7 days. And then you imagine you somehow explain him, and he was running for catch this deer, and even this idea that I don't know how to it's said in English when you picking the fruits.
It's called gathering. So they were hunters and gatherers.
That like it was reserved to the women because they were weak. They were gathering. This picking of fruits was physically more demanding because you had to go for long distances, like this man. But then you imagine you ask, you somehow can travel in time, and you come to this Neanderthal guy who was like running 50 kilometers. And he finally catch this deer, and then you said, you know, in the many thousand years, there will be a situation in a civilization where the people will run 5 times more than you, just to say I'm the fastest. And what would he think? You know, completely like dead from like almost dead by this hunting, and this like our constant measuring record of Usain Bolt on 100 meters, endurance thing of triathlon. Let's say a regatta won the globe. They have to go around the world without stop, without assistance, one man, one shot, you know, on the boat. It's crazy. Why? You know?
I mean, an interesting example is climbing mountains. A person 1,000 years ago would say, why? First of all, this is our deity. We're not climbing on our deity, whatever that meant to them. And second, why? You can die up there.
Yes, and it doesn't serve anything. You just don't. You cannot even breathe normally. You know why?
True.
Why?
True.
To conquer, no? To conquer Romans, perhaps.
Maybe. I don't know. We don't. But there is one stark topic or area of conversation that we're not yet venturing in, and that is a community. Those hunter-gatherers had to work as a pack to survive, because alone they're dead. Today, we all work for ourselves I'm working against all of you, and the whole world, because
I want to win that tender that you want to win.
Well, exactly, you know, and because I'm an opportunistic animal, I'm gonna go and conquer you, and everybody who's coming on my path. The community.
One strategy. I would like to work with you, because then together we have a much better chance of success.
Yeah, you know, community is something today we don't talk about. Collaboration. I mean, if there is one thing in art, and science wouldn't exist without collaboration. If there is one thing today in our individualized patriarchal society, is the collaboration. If we don't know how to collaborate, we can forget anything we want to do in the future in terms of climate change, in terms of scientific research. Forget it. We can basically start sharpening our knives and we go on a purge. You know, because if we don't know how to collaborate, we don't exist. You know, they turn off the electricity, all these cameras would drop, these mics wouldn't work, there would be no light. What would happen? Panic. Unless we work together, we would have a hard time getting downstairs to start with. Let alone, how are we going to cook the bloody dinner tonight? You know? And, you know, when we start talking about arts, and so and so, and I'm not going to name names, or these, accomplished that and that. No, these people, or we artists or scientists or whoever we are a sum of all knowledge that we gained, all collaborations we've gone through. And if we didn't have that, and all wealth that we or our parents have accumulated, if we didn't have that, we would be beggars, asking for the next bread to eat, and that's it. You know. And
I would like just because now I remember that you were speaking before. It's related about. You were speaking about decorative art and something that is
communication
and real art, and now when you were speaking these last phrases, I somehow this is one theory of mine, but I don't. It's not mine, but it's.
It's a sum of all knowledge.
Well, it's not nothing. It's nothing particular, but maybe it's a little bit provocative. If you have this artist that like where we can ask ourselves, where do the artists come from? If you put aside this like I say childish theories, like we are coming from those men, not women, that were drawing in the caves, I don't believe it because it doesn't have any sense. And if you see what art was even in Renaissance and in 16th century, it's always only decoration. We think after it that it's.
Well, art served a very particular function.
It was
only later became.
It was serving to decorate power. For example, Louis XIV didn't have, like Angela Merkel today, the statistic bureau, which will be able to say we are have a annual growth of BDP of 4.5, and we are great. He doesn't have this because he doesn't know anything about statistics. He doesn't know what is he doesn't even know how many people it's in his society because he doesn't know. He knows. But he doesn't care.
Taxation is a magical institution.
No, it's a magical institution. But Louis XIV was not capable to know via taxation how many heads he has. By the simple reason because the taxation until the late 18th century is made by the firms, concessions. So the Louis XIV make a concession to the big bankers and aristocrats and say, okay, South France or Southeast France, this region, I give you this concession. You pick the tax. I don't care how much people you have there, how much tax you will have. I want 20 millions because I need for the war. If you get 30, great. You earned. So he doesn't know. The first sketches of the statistics in France, maybe in England a little bit before, but in France it's end of 17th century, and it came really by accident. It came really by accident because, again, Louis XIV wanted cash. The region didn't have it, so he sent his intendant and said, look, I squeeze it as you know it. And then the intendant looks and he said, look, there is a lot of the wheat, and here the region just close to it doesn't have anything. What if we combine a little bit? We tax more than this one who doesn't have. And then they start, okay, we have to count people, okay? But it comes really late. So yes, he doesn't. The state doesn't know what is who is in the state. He doesn't know. But I went to the artists come from noble people. Because noble people in the medieval state or modern state have a mission to protect the state from the outside danger, and that's why they don't pay taxes. But the taxes are paid to them. They are paid to live and not to do anything. They are even forbidden to work for money. Okay, because they are noble, because they are the only one who can protect the state. This is the same conceptually. It's the same thing as a subvention in a modern time for the artist. You have to find the truth. You have to find what is wrong in the society. We don't care about armies because we are all NATO, okay? But you will find why the worker in a Lidl is not good. You will make a performance, criticism, then we will all enjoy how he is suffering. Let's do something about. And you will get a state subvention or money from the call for artists to live.
So
And then ideology, which I'm coming to what you said before, it's really not good seen if you earn money, because you are noble. You have to not. You are more than that. You are beyond earning the money. You have to protect the society. This is the trigger. So we are. Just wanted to say that we are not somehow. I don't think that. I think that artists today are not aware that they are, in fact, even if they are poor, some kind of conceptual elite. And by the way, the most of the noble person in the 16th, 17th century were poor because they could not work for money. It was forbidden by the law. If they would, they could earn, they could lose all the titles and the castles and whatever. And they were like vegetating from generation to generation. And
so we could, it would be fair to say that nothing has changed.
No, it changed in a sense that it went to another terrain.
Sure. But you know,
but elite is still there.
Sure, but I've traveled around and I've met many artists, and I would say I could count on the hands of maybe on the fingers of 2 hands that they came from working class people.
Artists?
Very rarely.
Really?
Of course.
Very rarely.
They are coming from high bourgeoisie from 19th century.
Sure.
That was trying to systematically copy the nobility from the 17th century.
Still today.
And what is really interesting is that the rate of duel and the death on duel, which is completely aristocratic thing, you know, like from Middle Age, this is the biggest in 19th century. When the bourgeois people want to be more noble than nobility in 17th century, they kill them between each other, like all this, you know, even in Russia. You know, there is some kind of continuation.
Sure.
But again, we're talking about canonized art.
Arts.
How do you define? I mean, again, I'll just throw a bone here.
Sure.
To me, the highest art of music is punk.
Sure.
And that was never done by the nobility. And there's also several
and it's very interesting
layers and types of elites. Basically, everyone in this room is elite in one way or another.
Well, I mean, we need to define elite. I mean, obviously, we're not aristocracy because there is very small percentage of that. The elite then, I would imagine, would be the middle class, which was way smaller than it is today, and the rest were poor.
Or knowledge.
Or knowledge, or access, or background of your parents, or family, or...
Or like, in Simon's case, like you give the funds, or you choose the people as a... or not.
Well...
We found you.
Yeah, now we are in this position. Well, that's kind of a difficult. Yeah, of course, to simple it down, yes. But you know, the funds that we are getting is basically given to us through mechanisms, either national or international, European, who have certain goals and aims, and those goals and aims are being put there. You know, in very seldom cases by the feedback of the scene itself, but you know, in the most recent case, if we go back to art, science, and technology, you know, and we were using a term, if it's being used or, you know, for something, I have to say that the position where we are in, where we have lots of mechanisms at the moment that are encouraging this art, science, and technology collaboration, which has these creative spillovers that go into the industry and production and so forth. It's basically not something that it's being done there for the sake of the arts and the artists. You know, it is, it's on one way we see, okay, more and more funds are coming, you know, from the industry to the arts, but it's not the case. You know, artists and other creative practitioners are, in my opinion, kind of being used to bring their ideas to the industry and are not compensated in the same way that perhaps someone in the real sector would be, that would be doing some kind of research either in, you know, even in public measurements of opinion and so forth, and how one product would influence the society. But yeah, in one case I could say, yeah, of course we are elite. If we are looking at the situation in Slovenia, when you have like 3 or 4 institutions that are constantly for the past 10, 15, 20 years in a position when they get public funds from the Ministry of Culture and municipality and so forth, and they distribute it by their own curatorial lines, agendas and so forth. Of course, we are elite, and you know, we are one of few institutions in our area in Slovenia that are in a position of doing this. But through time, you know, we have learned that the results, you know, speak to them for themselves, and we do have now at this time prerogative, an obligation to strive for even more funding from, you know, the European mechanisms, through other mechanisms, international mechanisms, to gain even more funds for, and be very careful in which way we spend it, because the easiest way is to just give out the money to the artist. You know, we could give out funds to the artists that, you know, we could have a list, okay, let's give it arbitrarily or, you know, coincidentally to anyone. But I think there is a responsibility to choose and to support projects that really do question the state of the society where we're in, to also try to break it, and to be also very careful that we are not, as artists or cultural practitioners, now being utilized to just support this system of constant reproduction and invent even more and more ways of how to design new things, new needs, and so forth.
Yeah, I just wanted to maybe get back to responsibility again, because we went too far for a lot of different directions. And that I'm noticed now that we have a lot of critiques in art, right? And usually now, if art is not criticizing something, it may be not in art at all. So, and I was thinking about this awareness and responsibilities again. Will it actually help to the society if you would just criticize that? I mean, you said that this is wrong, right? You are in capitalism or Christians, and what is the next step, right? So what do you think, if we would put more this critical approach and critical thought to the people, maybe it would be just make them feel guilt or something like that. Maybe, oh no, I'm putting the trash outside, like I'm not so clean guy, I not recycling that, I'm guilty now. So, but does this guilt actually helping, or maybe there is a lot other way to deal with it and go away from this infinite circle of capitalism and growth and running faster and faster and faster and achieve something? What do you think?
I mean, the problem we're having, art is gone the other way. It's not critical at all, in my opinion. It's not questioning much to start with.
This I don't agree. I mean,
well,
it depends where you look. For example, I was working for 2 years I'm not working, but I was part of the ministry jury for intermedia art. I think I even participated in some calls that enabled the resources for your institution. Obviously, because you are in intermedia, but you know, whether it's individual application or group like society application, it's always the same question. First, your references, the references of institution that you are collaborating, then a description of the project, which is in fact hidden thing, why are you better than the others? Then the fourth question is dissemination, so how it will be visible. I will be really provocative here. It's a missionary obsession. You know, we have to spread our truth and our word. And then the fifth one is how it will improve society, or if we are more humble, local cultural scene. Okay, these are 4 questions that are in different forms in every application that we were dealing with. Okay. So if you are not critical, you will not get money.
Sure, but go around the galleries.
No.
Yeah, okay.
The level of criticality, perhaps, I'm critical of. Maybe there is criticality, or maybe we question this detail. The level of criticality is poor, in my opinion. It exists, I'm sure, and I'm not saying that by any means I'm critical in my work. I'm just saying that the level of our society, or particularly in the arts, is not critical enough.
Okay, but then let's define what it could be good critics. If we say, for example, that mass makers' work, for example, it could be, is this critical or not?
In my opinion,
yeah.
It depends how you look at it. If you look at it from some scientific point of view, I'm sure there would be some criticism drawn out of it. If you look through the general public, I think it's purely shock.
Shock.
Yeah.
Yeah, but shock is also, it can be also criticism.
Not necessarily, no.
But then what it would be good critics?
YBA, Young British Art in the 90s. There was no critique. Well, there was critique, but more than that, they were after shock. Tracy Emin, Chapman Brothers, Damien Hirst,
okay, but what is then, how you see good critique then?
Hans Hacke, 1960s, whatever it was, he was talking about the climate with a simple box on the plinth. You know. No, but this is the thing. Or Gordon Matta Clark chopping houses apart. You know, buying landlocked plots where you can't build because you don't have the access to go to. You know, today we're too preoccupied with what might sell or what we want to sell or how we want to please the funder potentially, or the space that we are exhibiting. You know, at this point, and that's why, you know, if you look at, for instance, Hans Hacke, he would have projects that would be very socially critical, and he would have sort of like environmental projects. And the two sometimes collide, and sometimes they're completely separate. Fine. But when you look at the artist today, this is my topic, this is my theme, I'm working with it, this is my style, and I'm not deviating from it because this is me, whoever I am, Method, Smrikar, whoever, you know. This is my topic, and I'm not deviating from it. I'm not going to do a drawing because, you know, it's not quite fitting my practice. On the outside, she's probably doing, I hope she's doing drawing. But this is the level we're at. We're too preoccupied with what will everybody else say. Not necessarily the general public. We don't really care about general public since we are elite. But what will the people who are funding us say? because this might depend on our next funding.
But I think you have a really really deep romantic temperament for art, you know, and when I said that artists took what noble persons had, you know, this thing was not deep, you know. Noble function of noble people in 17th, 16th, 14th century. It's not deep, you know. It's bullshit in effect. But they thought it's important, you know. They somehow thought that it's only them that can. Okay, they were only able to buy a horse and equipment, but somehow then ideology came out that it's not only that it's them that have the money, but they are special to do it, to have a horse in a battle. It's not only because they could buy it, but then slowly the ideology came that people start to believe that they are special persons and they have a different body. And then then you have this famous blue blood, you know. You have like writers from 17th century when you see how they are writing about noble children. You see that it's the same discourse as we are speaking about young Picasso. There is one text that speak about a young noble child that goes something like this. He's only 5 years old. He can already lift a rock. When he walks, he doesn't touch the ground. He's just floating beyond the ground. And we already see when he was 4 that he will be a big man because he has this noble blood. Same discourse like for Picasso when you buy a Taschen book and then you see he was drawing really good when he was already 9 or 14. Of course, he was doing nice drawings and painting if he had the fanatic father who drilled him since he was 3. You know, every 14 years old child can make the same painting if somebody starts to bother him at the age of 3.
That's for everything else, sports, science.
So there is no, I just want to say that there is no deepness in art. There is no deepness. This is my opinion. It's just some kind of expression of power, and some people do it, they manage it, and they don't. Some other don't. There is nothing deep around it. It's not deep. It's not good. It's not something special. Everybody could do it, but just that don't find himself on a place and a moment to do it. Okay. It's not. I know it's difficult to accept it, you know, because we like that we are selection and hierarchized, and that we believe in geniuses and imbeciles, you know. But I simply don't believe in it because for me, for example. For me, Pollock is the decoration. You know?
I mean, the art is...
And somebody else will cry in front of this painting.
I mean, the art... Yeah, but why will they cry? They'll cry because
they are religious.
Of course they are.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
For nothing else. Because
century.
before they see the painting, they go read who made it. And then they're going to say, amazing.
So I just
Picasso.
Want to say all these artists that you spoke about. I forgot all this name, Gordon Mata, how he's called, or Marsmaker. Everything is good and bad at the same time. It's just it's
but
just there. You know, it could also be understood as a blah blah blah. If we could find it and observe it from another
but
angle.
Their work was...
It's not bad, it's not good, it's just there.
Their work, for me, was critical because it was reactionary to a certain situation they were living in. Today, unless we consider today the environment we live in, because we need to consider all the social media and how somebody is going to perceive us and how that person is going to see and blah, blah, how I'm going to write that funding bid, whether my project is going to be priced too high or too low and blah, blah. You know, it doesn't matter. In terms of art being, that I'm being a romantic, maybe, sure. You know, to a certain degree, yes. I mean, every every individual who's involved in art, science, sport is to a certain degree believing that what I or he or she can do can change or push something for the better or for the worse. Just change, you know. It's in a sense, it's important that it's moving, that we're moving, that we have the sense that we're rolling forward. It doesn't matter who you talk to. I mean, I could be doing art and science practice and I'd be happy with it, I'm sure. I could be doing painting. I could also be a biologist, although I wasn't really doing well in school to be able to go to uni to do that. But that's a different matter. You know, I had an inclination to pursue a certain practice that fulfilled me personally. If somebody else likes it, great. If doesn't, they can fuck off. You know, and this is my ego speaking, saying, do you know what? I'm not gonna please that people, and I'm not gonna do my art for money or in terms of commercial monetary remuneration. I'm just gonna do it for myself, for my community, perhaps. But you know, if it goes beyond, that's fine. If not, it's fine as well. I mean, I think it goes for science as well, unless you discover something. Do
we still have time for 2 more cents?
Of course,
okay.
of course.
So I would again argue with my Gauss curve when you were saying that there's no good or exceptional art or this type of art or anyone can do it. Yes, anyone can do whatever they've been practicing since they were young to a very, 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 very good level.
It's called grit.
Sorry?
It's called grit. Not greed, but grit. Grit, like you
great.
Perseverance.
Yeah,
Just
perseverance.
keep doing it for years.
And if you have abusive parents, etc., etc., etc. But you know, there is definitely at least 1 million athletes in the world who make it to a very, very, very top level, so that they're, let's say, candidate for the Olympics. They're genetically very well made. They had parents who pushed them. They had the society that supported them, etc., etc., etc. But there's only one Usain Bolt.
Yes, but
so I would say that also in the arts that might also be I would argue that is the case, so that you can have a plethora of very good artists on super top level because they have been trained and etc., etc., etc. But there's only one.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
I shouldn't say anything because I don't know. Let's say, but Picasso. Let's say we said there's only one Picasso.
Yeah, but then you accept that it is really important for a society the speed that a human being needs to run 100 meter.
Oh no! I just gave it as an example that there must be excellence in every field of human activity.
Yeah.
The top excellence.
And there was also excellence in the medieval tournament. Some of them won, and some famous knights arrived, and yeah, we also thought that there is only one knight like this. There is no 2 of them because he won all the tournaments. But in fact, already there was a small minority of person, like 1%, that could even candidate for something like this. And then you have to ask yourself, like, how it's possible that the society existed that where 2 men riding horse go one in front of each other with the lance and one drops dead. You know, is it not like completely crazy that you raise ideology from this particular stupid act of and that's the same thing you can ask yourself. Is it possible that we are making legends and mythology about persons who are covering the 2-dimensional canvas? You know, in the 16th century, if someone would see that you are looking in Leonardo da Vinci's painting with the love and passion of 20th century art lover, they would put you in the mental hospital, because they would think that you are heretic and obsessed by the devil. You know, like it was not meant to be so much observed. It was meant to
It served the purpose.
To communicate the magnificent power of the object in the painting. So it's Mecena. Mecena was important, you know, and not the painter, not the painter. Painter was just him or somebody else. We don't care.
I'm sorry, and the chivalry tournaments also served the purpose. They were the ones that will kill you next day in the battle.
Sure, but it was also entertainment.
Yeah, that too, for sure. But all these sporty-like activities, they're all just preparation for war.
Tournament.
I mean, also that, but just for war. There are wars. People fight. People have fought since eternity.
Tournament, or maybe it's not. Maybe it's boring, but tournament is historically looking a combination of two processes. One process is the distinction, the distinction of extinction of the war for noble people. They were replaced by the more and more by professional armies. So they need to find where they can continue to look like warriors. So this is a tournament, but it's not the only thing. The other half of it, it's from the German law, where the or even combined with Christians ideology. So I don't remember exactly because it's really a long process, but it's linked to the juridic process, because somehow they believed that the one who win the tournament has a right. So what you have in sometimes in tournament in medieval time, you have two monasteries or monastery and a feudal family who fights for the small piece of wood, and then they cannot agree. The king doesn't want to interfere because he likes both of them, you know. And then they say, okay, we will make a tournament. And they choose two champions. They are called champions. It's good knights. And let's see. The one who wins is right. It's his land. So the knights, Dupont wins. Monastery gets a land. So it's something that we can hardly identify ourselves with, you know, because these are things that are completely lost during history, but we build our own. We are sitting or standing in the museum and entering in the illusionary space of painting, which is completely our contemporary thing. You know, it didn't exist in Renaissance in this form. Although we believe it did, because the 19th century and 18th already and 20th is repeating that it existed, but not as we think, you know.
I mean, this reminds me of the discussion just before, the excellence. You know, can we be excellent in bureaucracy? I mean, and that's a real question. I mean, we are.
Of course we have.
Sure we can be, but can we point at the person who's the best in bureaucracy? And you're like, it's something we don't want to measure, and yet.
No, because this is a difference between, for example, even today between Slovenia or Croatia, in my experience, and France. In France has a long history and tradition of the state. They didn't have interruption as we did, and it's quite it's not so good in every point, because our let's say tabula rasa after Second World War give us a lot of good, although we cannot appreciate sadly enough, because we don't know how much the good did to our heads. But in France, even today, you have a really big, let's say, like a field of veneration of the good functionaries and politicians. They even have this politics school ENA that Macron now wants to close, and it was opened by de Gaulle. but it's not. It's just the end. But it's true like this existed before. And in France, the high functionary, or all politicians are somehow behaving and thinking in the same way as an artist in Slovenia and Croatia. They like individual success. You know, it's nothing so good in life of politician or high functionary as that you have a law named after you, for example. You know, you have law Lang, Jack Lang, I think, for the books, and even today they are speaking about it. Then you have the law from 19th centuries, beginning of the elementary school. Now I don't have the name, and so on. So you have like stars of politics and function and bureaucracy that are taught by the nation and people in the same way as an artist, because again he did good for the country, you know. And then they are really somehow you see the deception when the affair discover, like Dominique Strauss-Kahn. He was venerated as a great politician to become president, and then he was found with a prostitute in a hotel, and then the fairy tale drops, you know.
Yeah, or that Hungarian European parliamentarian who's been so against. In fact, he wrote the law against LGBTQ community and was found in an orgy in Brussels, etc., etc., etc. There are plenty of examples.
I think this not respecting of bureaucracy and functionary domain. It's more typical for us because we rejected our state in 90s. We wanted to forget and erase everything, whether it was left or right politics, and that's why we are babies in political way. We are babies who are becoming a spoiled child. And of course, the spoiled child doesn't like his tutor. You know?
I really want to say born again, but I'm taking it away. I'm not saying it. But what I wanted to say in terms of artists, there is this one Bosnian artist. Maybe you know him, maybe you don't. Braco Dimitrijević.
Yes.
Rings a bell?
You will not say that he's critical.
He's no. He's not very critical in that sense. Although in his study years in London, yes, because he was exploring the casual passersby, etc. Anyway, you know, and giving them platform and elevated them to these high status level. In fact, I would say he's critical in a different way. You know, you see one of his paintings hanging from the Museum of Contemporary Art, just in front of the Ministry of Culture. If you walk up and down, there is going to be a black and white portrait, basically. And he had this amazing story. There were two artists in Tuscany who were painting in their garden, and you know, blah blah blah. They were doing amazing work, and so on and so forth. The story is really short. It's like 5 lines long. It's a short paragraph. And the king walks his dog. And then the dog gets lost, and the king starts searching for the dog. And he wanders onto one of these artists' garden. They were both equally good. Walks on one of these artists' garden, and he's stunned how amazing these artists' drawings are. This artist that King discovered was called Leonardo da Vinci. The other one was called Anđelko Hundić. Who's Anđelko Hundić? Just some artist. You know, and this is when we're talking about excellence. Excellence is empty word, in my opinion. You know, one can be excellent in whatever the one does, and the other one could be excellent in whatever that other one does. And at the end of the day, if you have the right sponsors, you know, whether that's your parents, curators, mecenas, in terms of art, you'll be doing fine. Or you're doing the music that somebody thought, ooh, we can sell that. You know,
Do we have some time?
But again, I'll bring in math because I have.
yeah, please.
I would argue that with excellence, you're just increasing your probability that you're going to be discovered. In the sense you were saying.
But probability is nothing.
No, probability is everything.
Well, if it's everything, then it can also be nothing, and it can or cannot happen.
Yes, of course. But
because everybody's got the potential
again,
we figured out earlier.
I bring back sports, right? So you have good football teams and you have bad football teams. But in theory, even some club from tier 2 league can defeat Real. Right? But that's going to be 1 in 10. Then other 9 times Real will win 6-0 or 11-0.
Yeah, but we need to ask why.
Because they're better.
Because they're better, because they spend about 100 times more on the people
That's
picking
fine.
them from the last village in Africa.
For sure. But again, they're not going to pick the slowest kid from that village in Africa. They're going to pick the fastest kid. Right? So excellence matters because it increases the probability of success, whatever that is, and whatever how you define it, how you measure it.
The excellence in that.
Just in that.
And nothing else.
Nothing else.
Okay, and this in that is really important.
Absolutely.
You are working with this sport thing, and I remember now I have a funny experience with this problem. I have a daughter in elementary school, and there was one meeting for the parents. I was not fortunately I was not there because it could be a complete disaster, but my wife went, and the director of the school said in front of all children at the end of these explanations, which are technical, and yes, please force your children to make as much physical activity as possible, and especially girls. You know how girls. You know how are girls. Look, my wife. She never wants to go to Rozhnik by herself. I have to force her every Sunday. You know what I'm speaking. Boys run all the time, and girls they are playing. Okay. My wife translates this to me, and I call the director next day, and I said, first, what do my daughter has with your wife, with your old wife? I think that if you said this statement, you have to prove by the scientific articles which will prove that the girls or women are less inclined to physical activity than boys. So if you stated this, and you did, please give me a scientific reference. I don't have really some references, and I'm speaking from experience because my wife is like this. But yes, but my daughter is not your wife. So please, the proofs. I don't have them. Then I said to him, then you are sexist. I'm not. And I said, I don't want to speak with you anymore, and I hang up the telephone. So he writes me an email, because he was obsessed. He probably thought that I will call inspection for rights of children, and then he will have a problem. And he said that if I have any, that he feels that we finished in a strange way. So if I have any question, that I can contact him. And I called him and I said, look, I just said what is the truth. You are sexist, and that is all that I wanted to say. You are speaking bullshits, and we don't have anything else to speak. But he didn't want to live like this, And I said, but explain me, how do you think that this is not true? Look, Olympics. do women have the same result as men? And I said, look, okay, I will start from really basic things. Imagine you, skinny, really not straight body, weak. Imagine if I compared you with a Viking woman, with a warrior. What do you think how you would be in front of the Viking warrior or the woman warrior, and what would she think about your rachitic body? Did you think that you would be able to obtain this superiority of masculine body in front of a Viking woman or even a Viking man? No. Why? Because you and your ancestor are sitting in front of a computer or a table for centuries, and you are some kind defected kind of human being, and it's useless to speak who has bigger inclination to physical activity, because we are all without physical activity. We are all physically retarded, and in a way, Neanderthal man was physically superior to us, because he had to run, and scientists even proved that that early Homo sapiens women, and even more Neanderthal women, had the same muscular tissue as high Olympic men. Bodies, because they were they were in this position. They were running animals.
Those who
all
didn't
the time.
have it, they died.
What?
Those who didn't have these abilities, they died.
Yes.
It was very simple.
Okay. So again, we said 100 meters, and now we want to look who is fast. But this is our how to say, our I don't know.
This is our limitation of critical thinking beyond our own
but
selves.
Not only 100 meters.
No, it doesn't matter. Whatever.
All these results are our the proof of our mental limitation.
Yeah.
And we are obsessed only to prove some pseudo excellence in the categories that are completely useful, useless.
Has any of you done or did competitive sports? Yes. I raced cross-country mountain bike. Not for long, but enough to realize one thing. Racing against another human being next to me or against the clock is the lowest human interaction with another human being. Although I love the Tour de France, and I love how those people are hurtling up and down those mountains. It's irrational, I know, but that's how it is, I would never go race again against another human being, because it's mentally retarded. I mean that.
But you will race against another human being at the tender for public money.
Yes, it's same thing.
It is similar thing, although my track record is really poor in first in racing for public money, and second, even worse, in getting any money. In my 20-year art, I've got two bids for small amounts of money.
More than me.
True, but do you know why? Because the amount of time as an individual I can spend writing the bid, it's easier for me to earn that money. And quicker. If I need 100,000 euros, that's a different matter. But if we're talking 5,000 euros, it's easier for me to earn it. To go and earn it and make my project on my own.
No, but what we're saying now, I think, is just a really nice lesson, also for us here, that we really, really should not generalize in our statements. Because that director of your school was doing just a stupid generalization, and I'm sure we have committed quite a few this evening. And I think we should actually refrain from that. If, as you were saying, if you don't know your shit, you should just shut up. So that's why I would not comment on let's say what is good or bad art, because I have no idea. I don't think anyone does. But
I don't think artists do either.
So how shall then we say that we're talking about the interaction of science, technology, and arts? That something is good or something is not good, or something is working or something is not working? It's a tricky question. Because if we bring back sports, especially those sports that are actually measured, that's easy, right? Many seconds, fine, right? If we are already, if we start, then you get into the shades of gray. So figure skating, is that still a sport? Is it art? Is it objective? Is it who's the champion?
Or chess.
Chess is very objective. Someone wins and someone doesn't.
Sure. But is it a sport or isn't?
Oh, well, no. It's chess.
Well.
It's a competition.
Sure.
It's not sport. Sports would be physical activity.
Well, but they would argue they need to do a lot of physical activity to actually sustain the mental stress that they're going through.
Of course. Also scientists jog and do sports, whatever. So, because if you have to be sitting, I mean, I not only did competitive sports, I also did not chess but Go, which is even more tiring. So you actually have to be physically fit that you can be sitting at the desk for 9 hours. That's a lot of effort.
Yeah.
We don't realize that. But coming back to criteria, and then let alone purpose and effects, should we at all speak in these terms or not? Let's say if we're talking science, arts, technology, etc., working together. Does it make any sense to make criteria? Is it logical to do? And how do we then measure results and impacts?
I think there are worse things to think about what's logical and isn't logical. One is banking, as we touched earlier about it. I think people do what they wish to do, especially in the arts. There is no criteria. Oh, you're gonna do better if you go towards that area, or you're gonna do better if you're doing something else. 100 years ago, it was potentially better to do painting, but measures are different, and today, some painters do really well, and some installation artists or almost scientists who venture towards humanities are coming from a completely different mindset who are absolutely legitimate in doing so. And in this respect, we can't talk about objectivity, what's good, what's not, because we're all subjects. And it's really hard to say, oh, you are better than other. I mean, that doesn't hold water for me. People are free to do what they want. If they can earn money with that, that's fine. If they don't want to earn money with that, that's also fine. And that's what I tell my students, go and explore what you're into, and then think how you're gonna navigate through life. Because at the end of the day, you still need to go to a shop and buy that food, And it doesn't matter how you do it. You may as well be a good bureaucrat, and then on the weekends you do your practice. It's fine, And I have many friends who do that.
I didn't want to be too much critical, but it's hard not to be. But when it's about science and art, what I see the main problem for critic is to somehow kill this ideology of I personally fight against against this ideology of domination of the chosen one. and for the one with the talent. For example, I called once Academy of Drama and Film in Zagreb because I saw in the open call for the new year that one of the main condition to enter the university is possession of so-called inherited natural talent for art. Okay. Okay, if they write it, and they write this even in our academies, then I called the secretary of this institution, and I said, a bureaucrat.
He attacked.
And I said, can you explain me what is inherited natural talent for dramatic art? And of course, she was starting to she thought that I'm crazy, you know, like how can I, you know. She could not answer my question. Then I asked her if she can give me some number of the professor who are choosing the students, and that they explain me what is this inherited natural talent. And she didn't want to give me any number. But in fact, historically, if you go back in history, there is one moment, and this is beginning or middle of the 19th century, where this ideology is born. You can feel it. You can feel it because you can point in few discourses. It's not one man that invented, but many at the same time, like with every other thing. And he said, and you can point. It's, you know, in 20th of 19th century, it happened there. It's exactly there that it's born. And it's some kind of virus that it's just made and then just spread and grows, and more it grows, more become like crazy and rich of discourse and legends and myths, and what is interesting that it always go in pair with on the other side there is always discrimination, you know. If somebody is lifted as an artist, then on the other side you have someone who is put down, and at the moment where the art is somehow lifted is in the let's say approximately in the middle of 19th century, where you have parallel comparison between artists and genial persons and the criminals and crazy, you know. So you have the guys like Cesare Lombroso, Italian criminologist, who has two books with really interesting titles. One is the Home of the Genius Man, and the one is the Criminal Man. So what really bothered them, and that's why this ideology was invented, as the 19th century was really normative, you should not go too much out from the norm, much more than maybe than we, or less, it's debate. But artists were special. They were doing strange things like drinking too much coffee, taking too much drugs or whatever. And this was similar to criminals. So many psychiatrists wrote long debates to distinguish and say why this is genial for the artist, and why you recognize the criminal man doing the same thing. So it's important to follow the birth of these ideologies, because we are still baiting in them, you know. And not only that we are baiting on them, we are giving money according to these ideologies. We are separating persons. We are giving chance to some person and declining to the others, you know. And if you don't go to the historical analysis and see the moment when this is born, then you are lost.
I mean,
you just continue,
okay.
and there is no point of making critic because it's same for science.
In this instance, I need to ask, how much time do we have?
Because
if we're going into talent, sorry, do you need to go?
what is the time?
It's 8:20.
Ooh, I had to be 1 hour ago or somewhere.
Okay. Because just one remark, because if we're going into talent, I mean, this is the highest loathing term that I can't stand people say, oh, he's talented. No, it isn't. No, he isn't. No, she isn't.
My mom is right, you know. My mom said.
You know, I'm not gonna name names, but in my opinion, talent is an excuse for laziness. You know, oh, I'm not talented. Oh, but he's talented. Oh, he can do it. Oh, but I'm not talented, so I can't do it. You know, nobody's born with an inherent knowledge how to draw, or how to calculate, or how to, you know, imagine the worlds and blah blah. Nobody.
But wouldn't you say that perhaps somebody is more
Potentially a little bit inclined, yes, but I could also potentially write, but I could also go into music. You know, it's not just visual arts that I've been...
It's important what happens in first 10 years, 20 years.
Exactly.
You know, every has his own destiny. And
by the age of 7, we're already cooked. Generally.
Again, depending for what skill.
Of course, sure.
I'll come back to the Gauss curve.
Sure, but you know, this is so inherent in our culture that we are paralyzed by it. And you're absolutely right. I mean, you know, at some point somebody decide, oh, he's talented, and he isn't, because God forbid that there would be which God? Anyway, sorry, taking the God back. Let's not even imagine that the woman could be talented or not talented. They're down there. Let's keep it that way.
Where they should be, yeah.
I didn't want to say it, but thank you.
I'm the politically incorrect person.
So this is as far as talent. Oh, he's talented. But he's so talented. Oh, she's so talented. Oh, but look how well she's playing that violin. It was like, yes, she's been. Just read the book by Sir Ken Robinson, The Encounters. Is it The Encounters? Huh. Anyway, Sir Ken Robinson wrote about the people who were titled being talented. The dude's amazing. I mean, he's the first person who got over 1 million views on TED 15 years ago. Unfortunately, died last year. I was really saddened. But anyway, you know, talent is this romantic construct that we just can't shake it off.
I have to go.
It's really sad.
Yep.
Yeah. If you want to something say super short, you can, of course, but otherwise we would conclude. No.
Yeah, maybe just one word. No. Yeah. Well, I'm still stuck on the question that you posed for 2 times. No, what is the responsibility now of the artists, scientists, and so forth? And your observation that the level of critique that the artists or others pose when you go out to the exhibitions. Well, yeah, most of them, not that they are not talented, they're not even taught correctly how to critique. This is why we have that a majority, not all of them, we're not generalizing, but I would not say maybe that the level of critique is low. I would say that the representation of the people that are doing like really good critique, or a critique that is not being repeated for 100th time, is prevailing. You have a certain amount of artists who are very well critiquing the society and so forth. And the responsibility that I really wanted to touch upon, the responsibility, and we kind of drifted far from that. When you have, in my experience, or maybe what I'm seeing these days is that this mainstreaming of what is the themes that we need to be addressing, critiquing, and so forth. And some artists do them in a very direct way. Let's say when they are using animals, plants, other organisms, even the environment with which they are, working with. And also one thing is, you know, there is some competition, but within the artists. But what you touched upon before, some artists say, okay, this is my field, I'm going to work within this. Sometimes it doesn't come directly from their interest. Sometimes, and also in Slovenia, but also in the international, you have the division. You know, I saw in the past 10 years artists in Slovenia that divided some fields, and they are kind of exploring them in the same way, but they are not trespassing. You know, someone that's doing plants, it's not trespassing on the animal side. Someone that's doing animal is not trespassing to the other environmental side, other waters or anything that, or air, or anything, yeah. And also what I experienced here is, while we are being perhaps preached on how to address animals, address nature, address plants, address our environment, is being presented also through these organisms, materials, how we would like to call them, in a very, I would say, ethically doubtful way. You know, some of the artists that we know are using animals, are using plants, and they are having them as you know, we need to set ourselves on their level, but are exploiting these as it is material, as it is not something that is on their significant other or something like
On
that.
equal terms.
Yeah, and yeah, this is what I wanted to touch upon, or maybe start off when you asked about responsibility, but I think we're now very much the closing stages of this conversation.
Yeah, thank you. So we will conclude, and it was very nice. Thank you very much. It was XcAST collaboration with Art, Science and Technology in Euro University of Nova Gorica and X Center at Nova Gorica, and we are here in Kersnikova in Ljubljana, Slovenia, and today's guest was Method Blades, Čortomir Tauzes.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Yes.
Same here.
Simon Gmeiner and Andrei Pezov, and my beautiful colleague Rok Urbanchik. My name is Vasily Kuzmich. Behind the camera is Domen Vinko. Stay tuned.